It's Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, rolling now on EWTN Radio and our affiliates. And you're the one who drives this show, so we look forward to hearing from you today. I'm Jerry Usher, along with Debbie Georgiani. On with us by phone again, Deb, because that pesky little internet unit is just giving you some headaches, isn't it?
I think it's from all the traveling. I don't know. I mean, I pack it up like you wouldn't believe. You would think I'm carrying, something that's worth tens of millions of dollars, but actually it is, because a lot of thousands of souls depend on the show and being broadcasted. So this little unit is giving me trouble, but that's okay. We've got a landline, which is very odd. We should do a show on that because most people don't have landlines anymore, but I do.
Come on, Debbie, get into the 21st century.
I know. What is it? Hey, Jerry, don't let me forget. I've got to do a little bit of housekeeping and a little bit of follow-up from some previous shows because we're getting a lot of emails. So don't let me forget because I'm getting older and it'll escape my mind. Okay.
Well, let's set up today's discussion and get those phones ringing first. 833-288-3986. Debbie, you wanted to talk today about authenticity, about us being real, being who we truly are, huh?
Yeah, I really do, because I think it's really important. We live in a world where there's so many things that are just fake. You look at photoshopping and just changing things, and we live in a world that actually promotes being unauthentic as a way to be politically correct or to just keep peace. And it's really not what we're called to do as Catholic Christians. We're called to, absolutely out of charity and clarity, profess the gospel message in everything we do and in everything we are. And so we titled the show today, Jerry, I Am the Real Deal. And that is being authentic in this world. And let's talk about that, because how do we maintain that? How do we encourage that? How do we promote that? Because it's definitely going against the world. The world tells us, you can put on a different face for every different encounter that you experience in this world. And that's not necessarily healthy for us from a spiritual sense. And I've often heard it said, Jerry, that when a person, when you're in your own home, when no one's watching, no one's listening, and that's the real person you are. And so if you can be that same person out in the world, then you've mastered it. So it's pretty interesting. So we're talking about that today. So here's the number to get on the show, 1-833-288-3986. We're also on YouTube and Facebook. Hi, everyone. You can see me on the telephone. I feel so 1960s. I love it.
Well, and speaking of technology, you can also text your comment or your question. Text the letters EWTN to 55000. There might be a small data rate that applies there. Be aware of that. Of course, if you like EWTN Catholic Radio on Facebook, you can get notified of the live feed every day. You can leave your question or your comment there. Also like EWTN Radio on YouTube, where you can comment too. So a lot of ways to listen and a lot of ways to contribute to the program via email too at take2@EWTN.com. But again, the phone number, if you would like us to hear your authentic, real voice today, 833-288-3986. Are you truly, totally comfortable being yourself? What are some ways that people attempt to be someone that they aren't? Debbie, you already listed some of those things, and I think other ways too. With social media and gadgets, we can hide behind these facades, if you will, sometimes, and really not be our true selves. Most important, Debbie, I want to hear from people. How do you keep things real in your relationship with God, and when you live and share the faith? I mean, do you that's the important, maybe the most important thing, Debbie, is being, if we're Christian, we have to be authentically Christian in all circumstances.
Absolutely. Matthew Kelly's written several books on being the genuine self and the best version of ourselves. And I mean, he really does promote and encourage being authentic in all ways, especially when it relates to our spiritual life. So I think this is a really healthy discussion. And so if you could weigh in on this, we would appreciate it. 833-288-3986. Okay, Jerry, can I rewind just a little bit and just recap for Friday's show for some of our listeners that were tuning into the Guardian Angel show. And then one other shout out I got to do to Jason, our caller that came in about a little over a week ago from Buffalo, New York area. Okay, couple things. Jason, if you're listening, please call into the show and Matt Gabinski, if you could please get some contact information. Jason, we have some radio stations around the country that would like to get your testimony. So if you could please call in and give us some contact information. We asked you to email us take2 at EWTN.com. But we haven't received the email yet, and I'm getting a lot of comments of shows that would like to maybe interview you. So if you could do that, that would be great. If you're comfortable doing so. If you're not comfortable, Jason, that's okay. You can just call in and say, hey, I'm not comfortable. And then I'll tell the stations not to worry about it. But you shared your testimony on the air, so maybe that might be an indication that you might be comfortable. The other thing, too, is about the Guardian Angel show, real quickly, Jerry. Boy, I'll tell you, I don't know how this man does it. He's amazing. He's so busy in the Diocese of Pittsburgh. Adam Bly, trusted source, religious demonologist. I emailed him and I said, Adam, I just want to get some clarification on a couple things that came up during Friday's show about guardian angels. And Adam wrote me back a long, thorough email. He was just amazing. And anyway, yeah, pretty much everything we said on the show was spot on about, about discouraging naming your guardian angels because it means you're claiming authority over them, and God is the only one with authority over the angels. And then to also stick to, Adam says, to also stick to Scripture and the catechism of what we know about the angels, which is, it's still, there's really not a lot we know other than what Scripture and Catechism is. So private revelation, even Padre Pio's encounters with the angels or other saints or other theologians, if they talk about it, it can be private revelation, or it can even be somewhat misinformation somewhat. So that's kind of the answers with this idea that about choirs of angels and what angels their mission is like. We really don't know. It's for God to know, and God has authority over all of it. So Adam just encourages all of us to stick to catechism and Scripture. So we were spot on, and that was great, and it was good to get affirmation from Adam because he's amazing.
Yeah, and I want to pass along those lines, Debbie. We had a listener email, and you'll remember the caller who said that she had actually named her guardian angel Timothy, and she was the one that you explained, the church's position on that. And she was I think her name was Deborah or Debbie or Deborah, and she was very, very gracious about receiving that information. And somebody else emailed her and says, well, have that devotion to your guardian angel, but also pray for the intercession of Saint Timothy. Maybe Saint Timothy is somebody, well, he is certainly somebody who can help you. So I thought that was good, and I wanted to pass that along. So, yeah, glad you shared that. Yeah, do you want me to read that, or do you want to just keep that comment private that was just passed along to us on YouTube? Well, it's on YouTube, so it's public. So yeah. Somebody named Dave said, Debbie, you need a headband to hold that phone next to your head. That's from Dave on YouTube.
Dave. Yeah, thank you so much. I'm thinking the same thing. My arm's going to fall asleep after this hour, but you know what? I'm taking it for the team. So
yeah, well, during the break, you can switch hands. You can switch hands anytime you want. Be real, Debbie. Be authentic.
Exactly. I am.
I love landlines. It's. Did I just hear a background of myself?
Well, that might be your Comrex connection. I'm not sure.
Do you know what? I think I'm on Comrex. Am I?
I don't know.
Wouldn't that be amazing? Nope, it went away.
Okay.
That was quick. Comrex let me use it for like 10 seconds. But Jerry, we're talking about authenticity today, and I think it's really important that we weigh in on this because this is a tough subject. Let's face it, we live in a PC culture, politically correct world where we're trying to fit in, we're trying to be accepted, we're trying to not cause, ruffle any feathers and stuff like that. But is that really what we're called to be as Catholic Christians? I mean, it's not to be a Christian in this day and age. You got to be pretty strong. It's a courageous thing, I think, to be a Christian, especially when there's very strong persecution against Christians. There's even subtle persecution against Christians, and it's a tough thing. So I think this is a healthy discussion, Jerry. For the most part, I mean, I hope I can say this, with the most genuine sense of it. You and I are pretty authentic. I mean, we're the same off the air as we are on the air, which is hilarious because people might think, "Are you really like this?" And we really are.
Well, you made the comment earlier that who you are when nobody else is around and nobody else is looking is really your authentic self. I can assure everybody I'm not. I have my unredeemed side like we all do. So I'm working on that. I really am. I'm working on that. But we want to hear from you, our listeners today. It's Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. It's 833-288-3986. How do you really make a concerted effort just to be the same person in all circumstances? Be real, be authentic. And again, with all of the different mechanisms that we can use for being who we aren't, how do we avoid falling into those traps? And if you have kids, and they're using those social media to kind of put out this persona out there, how do you work with your kids and really try to say, hey, you know what, you got to just be yourself? Because Debbie, sometimes this is the thing. Young people so often feel they have to dress a certain way or, put on all kinds of makeup or, wear their hair a certain way or whatever just to fit in. And that may, they may be kind of shoehorning themselves into something that they're really not. So this is a big question for parents, I think, too.
Well, and talking about relationships, I hope I don't open a can of worms here, but I know that this is a common problem that can happen in marriages. There are spouses that tell the other spouse, just treat me like you would your client or treat me like you would your stranger, because sometimes when that spouse comes home, they're different than they were when they're out in the workplace and they're meeting clients and they're on their best behavior, and then they come home and they're a different person. Now maybe it's because they're tired or they've sort of pretended out there in the workplace, in the work field, and then they come home and that's the real them. But I've heard it said many times, actually, Jerry, and it's very unfortunate, where spouses have said, hey, just treat me like your client. It would be better. And that's very, see, what does that tell us? That tells us that people have, dual personalities when it comes to the world and what they do at home. So let's talk about this. This word authentic is a strong word, and we can all relate to it. So we need to hear from you and see what's going on in your life and see if you can impart some wisdom so we can all learn and grow. So it's very, very important that you weigh in at 833-288-3986. This is your show, Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. When we come back, we're going right to the phones. So stay with us the entire hour. You may learn something.
Father Wade Menezes.
The Father himself gauges his Son, capital G, as the most perfect one to act in his stead, he whom the Father himself sent into the world.
The leading Catholic voices are on EWTN Radio.
Podcasting is an easy way to automatically receive your favorite EWTN programs on your mobile device. Visit EWTN.com/podcast and enjoy your favorite EWTN shows on your mobile phone right now.
60 on 10 with Monsignor Charles Pope.
The seventh commandment forbids theft, that is, unjustly taking or keeping another's property against the reasonable will of the owner. It also prohibits deliberate retention of goods lent or of objects lost. It prohibits business fraud, paying unjust wages, forcing up prices, and taking advantage of the ignorance or the hardship of another person. It prohibits the appropriation and use for private purposes of common goods. Also, work poorly done, tax evasion, forgery of checks, invoices, excessive expenses, and waste. Under the seventh commandment is also tucked our social justice teachings, because if I have two coats, one of them belongs to the poor, and I reasonably ought to give what belongs to them, because God gave all the goods of this world for all the people of this world. The seventh commandment, you shall not steal.
EWTN. Live truth. Live Catholic.
Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN Radio. We are going to get to your phone calls in a moment. And just want to also, Debbie, quickly, it's a day late, but want to hope that all mothers and you, Debbie, you being a mom and with your mother. I hope that you had a blessed Mother's Day and that all moms did yesterday. It was just a very, very special day. And I was traveling. I was out of town and I was traveling home yesterday. And the parish that I went to Mass, they actually invited all of the mothers to come up to the front of the church after Mass. And it was amazing. I'd say about 60% of the people in attendance went up there, and all the mothers got a rose, and it was absolutely beautiful. So a great tribute to moms yesterday.
Yeah, it was a great day. So they got a rose and a blessing. We just got a blessing.
Oh, well, if I was going to get one or the other, I'd take the blessing. But the rose will die. The blessing won't.
True, that's true. I'm teasing you. No, it was great. It was a great day. My mom had a great day. It was wonderful. So it was all great. And now we're getting ready for Father's Day. That's coming up in June. So you got to start thinking ahead on that one. So that's a good one. But okay, if you want to weigh in on this topic today about authenticity, are you the real person outside of your home as you are on the inside of those walls of your household? We want to hear from you. 833-288-3986. And does the world support authenticity, or does it work against it? So it's 833-288-3986. Don't sit this out. Well, we had Christy, but Christy just dropped. Call back, Christy. We'd love to hear from you. It sounds like you have something to share, and you were first up, so we want to make sure we get you back in at the top. But here's the thing, Jerry. This show moves very quickly, so you can't really sit it out. And here's the other thing too is sometimes when we have discussions like this, everybody wants to learn, so they're kind of glued to the radio and they're listening, and that's great. But we need your life experience, because without that, the show would just be Jerry and I going back and forth, and you would get very, very bored rather quickly. Well, maybe not, Jerry. We can be entertaining.
Well, here's something for people to weigh in on, and it's so refreshing, I think, anyway, when we have someone in our lives, whether it's a parent, a family member, a friend, a coworker, and we can say about that person, he or she is truly authentic, truly real. I mean, every situation that you encounter that person in, you just find them to be, on an even keel and nice and genuine and real and so forth. So who is that person in your life? Do you have somebody like that you can say they are truly the real deal? And another thing to ponder, would those who know you tend to say that about you? That's something you might want to weigh in with a comment on at 833-288-3986.
Do you know what, Jerry, I have to say something. I hope I'm not going to embarrass him, but you just said that about somebody being the real deal. Can I hope I'm probably going to embarrass him, but okay, what the heck. Dave Palmer from Guadalupe Radio Network. He is the real deal. We got to work together in Buffalo. I never got to work with him yet. And in Buffalo, we worked together. And, you spend quite a bit of time with somebody when you're working on the air. And he's the manager and the executive director in Dallas for Guadalupe Radio Network. And I even said to him midway during the week of the pledge drive, I said, Dave, you are the real deal. I mean, he is so nice and so kind and so caring, and it was really a delight to be with him. So, Dave, if I'm embarrassing you, oh well, but you really are. To me, you're the real deal. He's the same off the air as he is on the air, and that's really it was really pleasurable to work with and to be with, and very inspiring as well.
All right, that's our topic today, 833-288-3986. We do have a lot of calls to get to, so why don't we do that without further delay. Margaret is in Ann Arbor listening on Ave Maria Radio. Margaret, hi. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Good morning. I hope my cell phone works.
Sounds just
okay to hear me. My son's 21. I have to say it real quick, that he is the real deal. He reminds me not to eat before Mass. I mean, an hour before communion, and he stops for animals and saves them and cries when something bad happens. And anyway, but I'm not. And my mother used to say, why is your dad so nice? Jump out and chat at a gas station and then get back in the car and grumble. And now I do it. It's terrible. I do it to my husband. And I chatter at everybody, and I make them laugh, and then I say, "Why didn't you weed whack?" I don't even know how to handle that. Seriously.
Mm-hmm. Well, Margaret, so you said your son is the real deal to you. Is that what you said?
My son is the real deal. 21 years old, and
well, then he kind of broke that cycle, then, if you will, because if you said your dad is similar to you. I hope I heard it correctly because I'm on a phone as well.
Yes.
Your dad was that way, but you know what? It's a common issue. Because I've heard it a lot. I used to do spiritual direction for many years, and a lot of couples would come in and say, my spouse is so great to the public, and then when they come back home, they're totally different. And it really has to do with the person's own feeling of themselves and their self-esteem and what they are working through with themselves. And a lot of it is fears, believe it or not. We want to be accepted out there in public, and so the fear of being rejected, we will go do whatever it takes. We'll put on a whole nother persona in order to be accepted. And then when we come home, we're like, whew, well, now that's, I'm accepted at home, so I don't have to work at it. But the thing about it is the way I got through it, Margaret, because that was me for many years, I will tell you. The way I got through it is I work really hard at every time I encounter anybody in my life, whether that's, my spouse all the way to the stranger at the checkout counter. They're souls, and I work at it that I'm either going to bring them closer to God by my encounter or further away. And so I view it every single time I do anything and I made that a commitment in my life. I don't know if that could help you at all, but I wanted to pass that on to you and see if that's something that you could start adopting, and it'll help you be a better person, because I'm sure you don't like that feeling of having kind of a dual personality as well, right?
Correct. And that everybody's a little wounded, and if I could look at my spouse, I do look at the public like that. And I'm real empathetic, and then I'm funny and chatty, and then we just sit around at night both on our phones, and it's very empty, and I've been praying and praying and praying for the Holy Spirit to fill me, and I'm on my knees literally in the dining room every morning, praying, and I swear I would jump up in embarrassment if my spouse came down the stairs. So here I've got a dual life with praying. That's really creepy. If I heard the stairs creak and he was coming down, I would jump up like I'm not doing anything. So now I've got this extra twist of I really am kind of nice and a praying person. I won't show my spouse that. That's creepy.
Margaret, I have a question. Are both you and your husband faith-filled? I mean, you practice and believe and so forth?
Yeah.
Okay,
yes, exactly. And all our three kids, we're very blessed.
Well, and the reason I ask is because I don't know if you spend time together in any kind of spiritual exercises, but you said you get on your knees every morning. You wouldn't want him to see you doing that. Well, that's understandable.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we want to kind of, shield our piety from others out of whatever reason. But maybe you and your husband you can talk to him and say, honey, what do you say if we spend 10 minutes each evening together, each morning together, either on your knees or just sitting on the sofa or something, and just in quiet, silent prayer, or maybe do the Liturgy of the Hours or pray a rosary or something? Is that something that you've done before or that he might be open to?
We did do couple prayer. I kind of begged our parish, and we had 12 couples, and it was a little hard to actually look at the person and say your name, like Michael this and Michael that. And it was a little hard, but the group was pretty cool. And then we kind of fell away from it, like at home, like blessing each other every morning. We kind of fell away, and he felt super, super awkward, like, oh, it's not my cup of tea. And I get it. But see, I've been listening to Catholic radio for so long, and that I'm sort of, I don't know, maybe more open. So I guess I could pray for him. And my brother, I talked to my brother about that. Sorry, what?
No, I was just going to say, Margaret, real quickly, I just wanted to say, you have to make a really intentional effort to redo things in your marriage and the way you two encounter one another. And praying, I mean, is absolutely phenomenal, absolutely. But you got to also work at it. And what I would do is I would set up situations where the two of you can have those beautiful encounters together, looking at each other, talking to one another, getting to know one another, because the soul and the human being is it's just so beautiful how we evolve and grow and learn. And so every day we are changing and learning and expanding, if you will, and getting closer to God. So tap into that with one another and have those aha moments about each other. Gary Smalley, he is great at it. Gary Smalley did a whole entire workshop on exactly this, about encountering one another and learning about these beautiful moments that you can share with one another in a marriage. So I'm going to pray that for you. Keep us posted, Margaret. And if you ever want to email us, we're happy to impart any more life skills on this. It's take2, the number 2, at EWTN.com.
Thanks, Margaret, for the call. We appreciate that so much. And thanks for your listenership to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, and to Ave Maria Radio and EWTN. Mary and Elizabeth and the others, we have you coming straight ahead here. We're talking about authenticity, being real. Are you the real deal? How do you strive to make sure that you are at all times? And is there somebody that you can point to and say, man, he or she is just, that person is genuine and authentic? And people say that about you. 833-288-3986. Glad you're with us.
Post your intentions on the prayer wall on Jerry and Debbie's website. To get there, just click on the bright yellow J&D logo at take2show.com. Jerry and Debbie personally reply to every prayer intention that's posted. Others will also offer you their prayer support. When there's something important you want prayers for, post it on the prayer wall on Jerry and Debbie's site. Visit take2show.com, click on the J&D logo today.
It's time for Family Man with Dr. Gregory Popchak.
Anxiety disorders affect 20% of Americans, and many take anti-anxiety medications in an attempt to find relief. But surprisingly, a new study from the University of New Zealand examining the effectiveness of different types of anxiety therapies found that compared with using medication alone to treat anxiety, or even medication combined with therapy, anxious patients who received cognitive behavior therapy alone experienced the most relief of all three groups. The study found that anxious patients can tend to lean too heavily on medication to help them feel calm, and because of that, can struggle to develop the skills therapy could otherwise afford them. By contrast, patients who received counseling alone worked harder to learn skills that help them create a more peaceful life. If you're suffering from anxiety but not currently receiving counseling, contact a faithful therapist who can make sure you're getting the best care possible. I'm Dr. Greg Popchak, but you can call me Family Man.
To discover more ways faith can enrich your life, visit CatholicCounselors.com.
We need Catholic radio because we need the voice of the church in the public forum. We live in a time that the secular voice dominates so thoroughly that we need to get that Catholic perspective out. Just as Fulton Sheen used radio and TV in the last century, we need to continue to use. This means to announce the Catholic faith in the public forum.
Bishop Robert Barron thinks Catholic radio is important. So should you.
Hi, this is Cy Kellett. Later today on Catholic Answers Live, Trent Horn generates lots of conversation when he asks, why are you not religious? Catholic Answers Live, 6 p.m. Eastern here on EWTN Radio. Now back to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Thanks for joining us on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. We're talking about authenticity today. Are you the real deal? That's what we were asking you today to weigh in on. And here's the number if you'd like to call. Plenty of time to get on the show. 833-288-3986. Just a reminder, EWTN News Nightly with Lauren Ashburn tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Just, mark that. Always remember that, because I tell you, she does a fabulous job, and EWTN News Nightly is the trusted source that I listen to. I know you do as well, Jerry, and so it's just wonderful. So don't forget, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Okay, now I'm really going to embarrass Dave Palmer. I just received a text message from Dave Palmer himself, and he says, and I'm going to read it. Dave, please forgive me. I don't know what's gotten into me today. It's probably the day after Mother's Day. Okay. Hi, Debbie. I was down the hall and not listening at the moment. What do you mean you weren't listening at the moment? Dave, you should be glued to the radio. Just kidding. But everybody's texting me saying that you said nice things about me on the air. How nice of you. I hope you had a wonderful Mother's Day yesterday. See what I mean? He's a wonderful, wonderful human being, great dad, great husband. And Dave, God bless you. Have a beautiful rest of your day. And I'm glad that your colleagues were telling you to get back to the radio.
Right. Okay, talking about getting real, keeping it real today. 833-288-3986. Please join us. We do have one phone line that's open there. Elizabeth, hang on. We're going to go to Mary first and then you. Mary is in Texas, speaking of Guadalupe Radio Network. Hi, Mary. Thanks for joining us on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Welcome.
Hi. I just have the opposite problem that others seem to have. At work, I have a problem being authentic because I work in the healthcare system. And people,
Mary, your cell phone's breaking up just a little bit. Can you try restating what you just said, please?
I'm sorry. You know?
It's a little bit better. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm in the healthcare system, and people want to have their own perception of what they want you to act like, how they want you to say. And so I'm the opposite. I'm more authentic at home and on my downtime than I am at work with other people.
Interesting. I'm curious to know if you can elaborate on that a little bit, Mary. And your phone is still breaking up a little bit, but you were talking about you attributed it to being in the industry that you're in. I'm curious to know if you can kind of flesh that out a little bit for us.
I'm a healthcare provider.
Okay. And so you said that people. Yeah. Go ahead.
So, like when you're taking care of a patient, or they have a certain perception of how they want to be treated by you.
Okay.
And they have an idea of how they want to receive news or what they should be told. And if you don't follow that, they don't like that. They can get very upset.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
so Mary, is this causing you a lot of stress?
I just sometimes feel like I'm not being honest. And because sometimes you have to give people hard truth, and they don't want to hear that hard truth. And so you can't force somebody to listen to something.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that puts a lot of pressure on you, and that's unfortunate. Well, we live in and by the way, thank you for all the work that you do in the healthcare system. I mean, thank you. That's a tough work, and you're helping people get through when they're at their most vulnerable, and that's really important work, especially as a Christian. But let me share something with you. I think that's true. Even in the in other industries as well, I think people have a hard time hearing the truth and accepting the truth. I think there's so many. I think we've been deceived for so long now, especially with the use of media, the way and the way technology has grown and advanced. We get information. It's being brought to us on all different levels, and it's very. I think it's overtaxing sometimes on the human being. I think we've lost the art of really just, and like the title of our show says, getting real with one another and just having that connection and helping one another through something. And because of all the rules and regulations and systems in place, we tend to have to either sugarcoat it or change it or cloud it or mask it somehow. And that's really sad, because we really don't know then what the real truth is. I hope I restated what you're going through the same way, but I'm not quite sure, how to even fix that other than through prayer, and hope that, in prayer you can be given the graces to be able to enter into situations and be able to speak the truth the best you can. You know what I'm saying, Mary?
Right. And, the thing, it makes me feel bad whenever I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to tell them the truth, but they're not wanting to hear it. And I feel bad, like, am I lying? Do I need to go to confession because I'm lying to this person? Not by, outright lying, but by having to cradle the truth or to soften the truth, or,
Well, you know what I would say to that, Mary? I would not want to be in your situation. I've thought of that so many times. How do doctors, how do healthcare professionals like yourself do this? And really, to be honest, if I'm not mistaken, and you correct me if I'm wrong, or you let me know if I'm on the mark here, you really have to size up every situation and every individual, and you don't have a lot to go on. You don't really maybe know the person intimately or all that well. Maybe you've had interaction with them for a short period of time, and you know them just through that or through their family or whatever, and you have to really go into each situation uniquely. So I wouldn't say that you're necessarily being inauthentic. I think you're probably in a certain sense, if I can flip that around, you're being most authentic because you're trying to find the best way to give that person news that you have trouble giving them and that they may not want to hear, but you have to do it anyway. So I think you're being very real in those situations. What do you think?
Are you talking to me or?
Yeah, you, Mary. I think you're.
I think I think it is hard, and sometimes patients and their families expect us to be miracle workers, and the only miracle worker I know is in heaven. And it's hard to tell people I'm human. I can't fix everything. And I guess that's what it is. It's just that I hear other people saying, "Oh, I'm authentic at home," and I'm thinking, or I'm authentic at work, and I'm not authentic at home, and I'm thinking, I'm the opposite. I wonder if anybody else struggles with that.
Well, Debbie, I know you've got something else. Let me just try to further put your mind at ease, Mary. And by the way, I lost my sister, Mary, as you may know, a little over a year ago. And here's what happened. The doctors called a family meeting, and there were about 4 or 5 doctors in there, and everybody's sitting around. And we knew it. When they call a family meeting, it's to basically give the bad news. And one by one, the doctors are kind of, twiddling their thumbs and trying to find, groping for words and all of this. And my sister herself was the one who spoke up, and she says, "What you're trying to say is I need to go home and die." I mean, she put the words in their mouth. So it's not an easy thing to do, Mary. So I applaud you for actually just even doing this. And I join Debbie in thanking you for that service. And don't be too hard on yourself, because that's a difficult situation. But Debbie, I know you wanted to say something else.
Well, no, actually, you took the words right out of my mouth, Jerry. I was going to share my dad's encounter, very similar to your sister Mary, Jerry, where the doctor and nurse came in to give that just horrible conversation where you had to tell them they needed to go home and prepare to die. And I remember them, dancing all around it and dancing and dancing and dancing. And my father did the same thing that Jerry's sister Mary did. He said, "Just give me the truth, please." And they said, "You're going to die. You're going to go home and prepare to die." And my dad burst out crying. They burst out crying. It was just, and he said, "Why didn't you just tell me at the beginning?" And they said, "We didn't want to hurt you because you're such a sweet person." And it's so sad, because this is the beauty of soul to soul connection and the humanness of us, of the way we want to love one another, and we're meant for that. And so, Mary, I agree with Jerry. You're in a tough situation. You have to size up every single situation and see where a person's come from is, and you're such a good soul. You don't, you want to be able to give them the truth, but you also, I'm sure, want to care for them, because that's your nature. That's why you're in the healthcare industry. So I just say more power to you. But if it were me, I'd pray for the grace for every situation, that the good Lord can reveal to you which way for you to proceed and how to use your words in the best way possible. So that'll be my prayer for you, Mary. What do you think?
Thank you guys for your encouragement. It really helps. I enjoy listening to you, and thank you for your ministry.
You're very welcome. Thanks, Mary, for calling. Phone number is 833-288-3986. Talking about authenticity today, and that was a unique take on that. Mary kind of turned that around. Debbie, you mentioned that some people are, want to be authentic and real and perceived one way, when they're outside the home, and then when they're inside the home, like you said, you've already kind of got that security of your spouse or family. They're not going to leave you, if you're a little bit less than nice sometimes. But Mary kind of spun that around a different way. Maybe somebody else has a different take on that. Like Elizabeth is in Salt Lake City listening on Simple Radio app. Hi, Elizabeth. Thank you for joining us on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hi, thank you so much for taking my call, and thank you for the work that you guys do. My call, or what I was going to say is somewhat similar to the caller just before me. I work with families to help them get into recovery when they have a loved one with an addiction issue. And oftentimes it's the same deal where you have to, at one point you have to meet them where they're at, but at the other point you have to remind them that, you know what, this is a deadly disease, and if you don't get educated about it, your loved one could eventually die from it or will die from it. And I've only been doing this for about 2 years, and I got very honest with somebody. And, oh, my gosh, the person got so mad at me and was telling me I was judgmental and everything. And it cut me to the core because, that was kind of a different response than what I've received. But it was the first time I had been far more bold, because I said, if your child was dying of cancer, you would go and find out everything you could. But, the problem is when somebody's child is, hooked on marijuana and doing other things they shouldn't be doing, everybody wants to look the other way and hope it's just a phase. But if you knew that they had a deadly disease, you'd be finding everything out. And the problem is that people don't realize that with addiction. And if you choose to deny it, the addiction grows, it flourishes in that kind of an environment. And if nothing changes, nothing changes. And so I realized when the person came back to me and told me I was very judgmental, that I was telling her she had to do it my way, and maybe that was just more of her stuff of being in denial. But that's part of the work I do with people, is to get them out of denial, and they don't always like what they hear.
Well, yeah, you're telling them the brutal truth, and they're going to have to make a choice and make decisions from that point forward if they don't want to go down that really dark path. And so, but Elizabeth, if your demeanor, even your words that you're using right now and the tone that you are delivering, if that's the kind of treatment that you handle your clients with, or I guess you would call them clients, you're a beautiful soul. You're very gentle, and you're very kind in the way you speak. Yeah, and you know what? People don't want it. I mean, there's no great way to express the brutal truth. I mean, think about it. What are you going to say? You can't dance around it for so long. You have to finally, be honest and tell the truth about something, especially when you know the outcome of how this can affect with addiction and everything. So I think that it's just, you're right, that person was not ready to receive it. They heard it in a different way. It was jolting to them, and so you could have flowered it all you wanted with your words, but it was still going to be very hard for them to accept and digest at the moment. But I can tell you this, at least you spoke the truth. And whether they accept it or not, it's going to be in the back of their minds. And that's really important, because let's face it, we live in a world that is complete deception, complete. And nobody wants the truth. And as a matter of fact, the facts of situations don't matter to people. It's just whoever's speaking the loudest, who's ever, getting in our ear and getting in our minds, that's the ones that are so-called telling the truth. And that's not true. That is from Satan. That's a lie. So we are called to speak the truth in clarity and charity, and it sounds like you do that in your work. So more power to you. I know it's got to be hard to deal with folks who just aren't there and ready, but if you know you're doing it, and you're doing it out of love, and like you're prayerfully entering every situation, because it's a tough position, then I believe the blessings will flow. You'll see the outcome of it, if not here, and then in eternity. What do you think? Am I rambling, or is any of it making sense?
No, that's so helpful to me, because, I never thought I would do this work, but I really feel like God put it on my heart. And I went to coaching school to learn how to become a life coach, but that specializes in family recovery. And I'm going places I never thought I'd go. And so I just, I really have to trust God that this is what He wants me to do. And so,
exactly,
no, the work isn't easy. Who said it was going to be easy? But I just really appreciate what you said to me is that, you know what? I'm not doing anybody's favors by sugarcoating it at all.
Right.
And if I can pray
Elizabeth,
before every situation,
Right. If you can pray before every situation, that gives you that spiritual strength to go into every situation. The other thing, too, is you're doing the right thing. So when you're going to be standing in front of God someday, he's going to say, Elizabeth, thank you. Hopefully he'll say, thank you for telling the truth, okay? And that's important. But here's the other thing, too, Elizabeth. When you're doing God's work and you're helping somebody, you're always going to encounter resistance. You are always, even if in the most perfect situations. Jerry and I, at the very beginning when we did Take Two, we would have the most perfect show. Everything was perfect. And wouldn't you know it, that we would get one email that says, I didn't like this and this is why. And we're like, oh, my goodness, were they listening to the same show? And you're going to encounter that resistance. So I'm going to be praying for you, for your ministry, and I'm glad you took the life skills certification, because that really helps to relate with people. And so more power to you, but I know Jerry wanted to jump in because he has something very profound to say.
Well, the last couple of callers here, and Elizabeth, yours included, of course, I'm reminded of Ephesians 4:15. We know the passage, Paul says, speak the truth in love. And when it comes to giving people maybe difficult, information about their health and perhaps that they're dying, or Elizabeth, like you said, it doesn't do any good to sugarcoat over something that could be very, very damaging to somebody, such as addictive behavior. So that's authenticity. Authenticity always, of course, involves truth, but it has to involve love and charity. And like Debbie said, the prayerful approach to how to present that as well. So I think you're doing a great job. You're on the right track, and we certainly applaud you for that.
Thank you. What was it was from, did you say Ephesians? Can you
Ephesians 4:15 talks about speaking the truth in love. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much.
You got it. Thanks, Elizabeth, for the call. Speaking of that, we had an email from Christy. Christy, I think, was the one who tried to get through on the phone. She's an EWTN missionary and a catechist to the streets full of fallen Catholics. God bless you for that, Christy. And she says, I am the in-your-face with a crucifix gal who will remind you when you don't know the truth and should know better. She wanted to give a shout-out to Tia in Canada. She says, Tia is the real deal. So thanks, Christy, for that email. Appreciate that. And, Debbie, we have to know the truth in order to be able to speak it in love. And, friends, EWTN Religious Catalog may be, if it's not the largest selection of great religious items on the planet, I don't know what is. You're going to find books and CDs and DVDs and statuary and jewelry and devotionals and medals and all kinds of stuff. EWTNRC.com. And we're coming into the season now of graduations and ordinations, confirmations. It's not too late to give somebody that who came into the church a beautiful religious gift. So consider EWTNRC.com when you're shopping for items such as that.
I love it. I check it out probably every day, if not every other day. So it's just because there's new features and new products that they highlight. So it's really great. Okay, Kathy, we got time to get to you in Florida on Peace Be With You Radio. Hi, Kathy. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Very well, thanks. I was just calling to share with you that it was through my employer that I was able to really become more authentic in my religious life, my Catholic faith, in the workplace particularly. He was a very strong Baptist and a tax collector, actually, and he was very aware of what that meant biblically. And his position was that if he was not able to have a Bible on his desk at the office was the day he was going to resign. And that strength of faith and leading in prayer every week at our office and staff meetings, calling prayer spontaneously at the counter for people who had difficult times. It really helped me in being able to develop that faith and speak about my Catholic faith to others, not just to people who were at church or people who were Catholic also. And it allowed me to feel comfortable with asking customers if they wanted me to pray with them or even praying on the phone with them if they needed to. And just discussing my faith if people had questions and not feeling intimidated about it. Just having that support from my employer really helped my faith blossom, and being able to take it, not just furthering it and growing it in the workplace, but now I feel more comfortable in discussing it just out and about. And it's such a strong thing. Anyone who's an employer out there listening should really understand the impact they can have, just the ripple effect of modeling strong faith in their workplace.
Wow, Kathy, I'm assuming, maybe I'm wrong, I'm assuming this was not a religious office environment, religious workplace,
no.
No.
Government office.
Government office. Oh my, that's even more more intriguing. Wow, well, what a gift, and I love the the spunk of your boss. He said the day that I can't keep a Bible on my desk is the day I resign, and we have the motto of our country, in God we trust, and yet so often that is kind of not only thrown out the window, but you can't even express any faith at all. But the fact that you were able to pray and offer prayer with your customers and so forth, wow, Debbie, I mean, what a different country and world we would have if all workplaces were like that.
Well, I just want to say, God knows who he is, Kathy, but I'm going to say a prayer of thanksgiving to God for that employer, because let me tell you, he was a leader, and look what he did. He demonstrated a strong, courageous belief in God, and look, like what you just said, the ripple effect of that. And so, God bless him for having that courage and that strength to be in this world and to be who God has called him to be as a Christian. So I think that's awesome, and I think it challenges all of us who are in leadership positions to do the same. Don't cower to the world. Stand up and be courageous for what we believe in as Christians, especially for us as Catholic Christians, which I have to tell you, Kathy, it's unfortunate. A lot of us Catholics don't do that. We kind of just stand in the background and wait for sometimes our evangelical brothers and sisters to step up, but we need to step up. So I think that this is a good reminder. So thank you so much for sharing that, and I'll be sure and say a prayer for him, thanking God that of his strength and courage.
And for you too, Kathy, we'll keep you in our prayers. Thank you so much. KC and the others, I'm just looking at the clock right now, and we just simply are going to hear that closing music roll by Rich here in just a moment. So apologies, KC, but please feel free to call us or email us, take2@EWTN.com. But Debbie, I'm excited about this week of topics. And tomorrow, we're going to be talking about how we greet other people. We want to hear from you. Are you a hugger, a kisser?
Mm-hmm.
Different cultures do things differently. Obviously, we're going to greet people differently based on our relationship with them. You're going to greet your mother differently than you're going to greet your neighbor, of course. But some people, Debbie, especially if I'm approaching somebody I know who's a fellow Catholic, I have no problem giving a hug. I mean, not necessarily kissing or anything, but I greet people with a hug. And the Bible talks about greeting people with holy kiss or a hug. Mm-hmm. So we just want to have kind of a conversation about where people's comfort level is in terms of what kind of affection that they are, feel comfortable showing to other people.
Exactly. Jerry, that's so Italian of you, because I'm a hugger too. Us Italians, we're big huggers. Even after we're fighting with one another, we hug one another. It's so weird.
Well, and you got to size up each situation differently. You want to do what's appropriate.